Alright, welcome everybody to the Left Behind podcast live. My name is Zachary Fuller, and today we're doing something special. We are looking at redistricting across the nation. So I'm just going to hop right into Georgia because I'm pretty sure that's where most, if not all, of my viewers live. And so how we're going to do this is I'm going to show you the new maps passed by state legislators and talk about those, my opinions on those, and how they came to, and then also some what I know about how they came to be. Okay. I have made a series of maps that I feel like are fairly fair to show you a comparison of what a fair map could look like compared to the things that state legislators do, okay, which are typically not fair, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then later in the show, we'll discuss the new local maps for the Spalding County area. But I'm going to start with all the national stuff. And I'm just going to check everything's working. Okay. I don't have a stream chat, so if you're in the YouTube chat trying to hit me up, I can't see it. But okay, let's just get right into it. So Georgia, it's a complete gerrymander, complete statewide gerrymander, and that's very obvious when you look at these maps and if you look at the percentage of seats. Because as we know, 2020 something historic happened, and 2021. Georgia elected Democrats. Georgia's been a deep red state since the end of the 90s. And, you know, it used to be a former Confederate state. And we see a lot of the southern states are very red. If I go back to the national overview and we go to the old maps, if it'll load, you see a lot of red down here. Now you see these big blue districts, but that's just one district. That's the thing. And that's mandated by the Voting Rights Act. And I believe passed in the late 50s, where they have to have a majority-minority district based on the percentage of people of color in each state. I think it specifically targets southern states or former Confederate states. I'm not sure the exact wording of the law, but basically the reason Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina all have these blue blobs is because of the Voting Rights Act, because otherwise their GOP state legislators would probably crack it and there would be no Democratic seats. But Georgia has much more Democratic support than other states, and we saw 2020 it flipped for a Democratic president for the first time since Bill Clinton. We saw the runoff elect 2 Democratic senators for the first time since Bill Clinton. And in the later 2021 election, Georgia elected the most Democrats. Like, it was the most Democratic flips out of any state for the local races. So Georgia is very blue. It's almost half. It's about 49% or 48% Democratic voters, somewhere in there. About 51% Republican, and then the other like Libertarian or whatever. And so the fascist state legislator, which I will say that if you have looked into Georgia, the recent things starting in the end of 2020 to now, state legislators really going down a very bad fascist path, and that's not an exaggeration. But this old map, you see, we have this is what I consider the voting rights district, because these are just urban Atlanta districts. This blue district here, Sanford Bishop's district, Georgia's 2nd, is what I consider Georgia's voting rights district, because this is this right here where I'm hovering my cursor. I hope you can see. You can see my cursor, right? Yeah, you can see my cursor. Is what's called the Black Belt, and it's called that because this is where a lot of rural, not all rural, but this is where a lot of black Georgians live. And there's clear segregation in Georgia, and you see this where people live. You have high minority populations in the Atlanta metro area, And then you have high minority populations in this strip, starting down here, just above the very south of the state, and then going up to Columbus, and then going over to Augusta. You have smaller cities that have minority populations, and then you also have rural areas that have a lot of black farmers that settled there, and decades ago settled there after the ending of slavery, and white people moved north or south, white flight, But you see, this captures on that. This is a lot. This specifically gets Macon, Columbus in there, and a lot of these more rural black folk to have this slightly Democratic district. And then up here in Atlanta, you have 3 safe Democratic districts. And then 2 highly competitive districts. One that's +1 for the Democrats and one that's +4 for Republicans. That +4 in 2020 flipped to a Democrat, Carolyn Bourdeaux, which Carolyn Bourdeaux, by the way, is one of the most conservative Democrats in the Congress. So not exactly a great thing, but I guess any improvement is an improvement. And, none of these red districts were competitive at all. The most competitive one being Buddy Carter's district by +19. Now, this new map is awful. It specifically gets rid of these competitive districts, which, by the way, competitive districts are core to a democracy that uses a system like this. Gets rid of that. One, it lowers the majority-minority district to +4 instead of +6, making it statistically competitive. I still think Sanford Bishop's going to win re-election, but it's going to be more difficult, especially in the future, to win a Democratic seat here. So this is a possible flip already, because we had 6 to 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 6 to 8 Democrats to Republicans, which I think is representative of Georgia. Based on the split in voting, that makes sense. 6 to 8. This already makes it to where you might lose one in the future by making this district more competitive. And then what they do in the Atlanta metro area is they take what used to be 2 competitive seats, 6 and 7, and they made 7 a safe Democratic seat, and they made 6 a safe Republican seat. So they're no longer competitive. It's going to be a Republican and a Democrat, which takes away a Democratic seat. So now Georgia is 5 to 9. Georgia every year gets more and more Democratic voters, and yet we've just lost a Democratic legislator because of this map. Because it takes North Fulton, which is already kind of conservative, and lumps it into Forsyth County and all the way up into the mountains, right? And it takes what used to be like Gainesville and some of like Johns Creek and puts it all into like Gwinnett. So now we have a situation where there's going to be a primary challenge. Lucy McBath, who represented Georgia's 6th district, is now going to have to run against Carolyn Bourdeaux for the 7th district, which I hope she wins, because Lucy McBath is a good legislator, Carolyn Bourdeaux is not. But we should have both. That would be more representative. Democrats with opposing views, and enough Democrats to represent the Democratic voters. But we have a horrible state legislator. If I drew Georgia, it wouldn't look exactly like this, but I devised a system that I feel like would allow me to make some consistent maps to show you what could be fair maps. Because what I would suggest, and what a lot of legislators have suggested, is banning gerrymandering by putting in strict laws about who can draw the maps and what requirements they would have. And so I sort of gave an example of what something like that could be like with independent commissions across the board, which some states do use independent commissions. Some states use congressional bodies. Georgia is one that uses congressional bodies. But this is what it could look like. My system was split the number of districts into thirds, and then each third represent a different type of voter. So you have urban, suburban, and rural is what I've done. So I took the most populated cities and gave them a third of the districts, and then added for each state a different way of labeling like suburban and then rural districts in that. So what I've done here with Georgia is, of course, we have Atlanta has its own district, which is all in Fulton County. It's got all of Atlanta except for the part that technically extends into DeKalb County, and then all of Fulton, right? Safe blue. And then you have Augusta, which Augusta is red, but just slightly. If we look at the numbers here, District 2 on my map is not even a whole percentage point going to the Republican Party. So it's a very, very competitive district. And competitive districts are super important. As we see here, the Augusta district is now the most competitive red district at plus 17. Augusta district. They don't look at it that way, but that's how I'm looking at it. Right, and then you have, well, actually Augusta's number, no, that's right. And then Columbus. Columbus is what on here is more like the black belt representation. Because of, I did not take, and this was intentional. This is not, like I said, this is not a map of how I would do it if I was the one doing it. This is just an example of what it could be. And I did not follow the Voting Rights Act when drawing these. This is just a hypothetical different world situation. And with the more fair representation, I felt like we wouldn't need that as much. Well, whereas in real life, I feel like the Voting Rights Act stance on gerrymandering is extremely important, even though it's being undermined by the Supreme Court right now. So this district is the Columbus district, and it is just this southwestern border right here. And I tried to make it very competitive and sort of stick with those more black Democratic leaning voters by putting in some up here of like Noonan and putting over here this area of, I don't even know the name of that county, but this area, you know, like right here. Then you have Macon, which is kind of like what a lot of people call Georgia Heartland. And it's fairly red, but not like super duper red. Like you see on here, these are like 35, 20, all that. Like this is like 14 points red, you know. It's never going to flip, but it's at least going to be, it's not going to be a landslide, right? You're not going to be able to elect a Marjorie Taylor Greene in this district. You're going to have to find a Republican that at least pretends to be moderate, right? And, you know, it includes Butts County, it includes, I'll turn on the counties map in a second to show you. And then you have Savannah as the 5th district, which, you know, Savannah typically has a district in Georgia maps anyways. And so I sort of focus on the coast and then sort of really putting it against the southeast. And so when it comes to suburban for Georgia, really all of that I felt like was in the Atlanta metro area. And we have, because of the vote split, we have we have 5 Democratic districts. We've got one for like Cobb County, got one for like Gwinnett and Gainesville. We've got like a North DeKalb, North Fulton district here for Johns Creek, Brookhaven, you know. You've got the rest of DeKalb into like Newton County, Henry County, right? And then you've got the South Fulton districts with Douglas County and Clayton County. I feel like this represents all different types of people who live in the Atlanta metro area, basically. And I feel like it represents them well, because as you see, 7 and 10 are competitive. So we have 3 competitive districts, and then 1 semi-competitive district. And the rural districts of Georgia, very similar to actually the rural districts here. If you look at the old map, you have 3 northern districts, right? The new map creates 4, which is, I feel like, not representative, but I feel like the 3 is. So we've got District 14 with like Rome up to the Appalachians. You got District 13 with like Blue Ridge down, just taking up the extra space in here, which is pretty rural in between Atlanta and Augusta, right? Not including Athens, because I feel like that's more represented in the urban district, right? Because it's an urban area. And then this extra middle rural district here with all these counties north of Fulton, up to the border. And I'm just going to show you real quick city lines, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Like you have Augusta here, Columbus here, Macon here, Savannah here, Atlanta here. And you can just, I'll zoom in so you can see kind of what cities are in each district. And then I'm just going to show you the counties. So this is the split on counties. We see the Macon district has Fayette County, part of Coweta, Spalding, Pike, Lamar, Upson, Butts, most of Monroe. It's got some of Jasper. Of course, all of Bibb County, all of the one that Warner Robins is in, I don't even remember, down here. I feel like it's pretty good, pretty representative. Okay, so that's the first example, and I've talked about that one the longest because it's Georgia, and so I feel like it's relevant, right, to my viewers. Just gonna check the stream. I'm nervous about this being live, if you couldn't tell already, but we're just gonna keep going through this. So 10 states have not passed their map yet. They've all proposed. Louisiana was the last to propose a map, but 10 still haven't actually approved it. Alabama recently had theirs reapproved because their Supreme Court struck it down, but then the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, it's fine, which is an issue because in between that time period of the two Supreme Courts fighting about it, North Carolina and Ohio had passed a district, and then they got revoked by their own Supreme Courts. They're probably going to come back, though. And I'm just going to touch on that real quick. So because the litigation over these two maps is probably not going to go anywhere because of the result with Alabama, I can guess what the results are going to be here. Because right now we see with what has passed, these are the numbers. But I calculated all of these, and it's not looking good for democracy, really. Because the strategy, it seems like, for the 2022 redistricting process is to lock in seats for incumbents. And so competitive districts are extremely important to democracy so that voters can decide how many of which party get into Congress, right? But as you see this trend already, you're losing 8 districts that are highly competitive. That's going to continue. I feel like we're only going to have a total of 39 highly competitive seats, 190 Democratic-leaning seats, and 206 Republican-leaning seats. And yes, while the Democrats are in the lead right now, as you see, you've got Louisiana, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Missouri. These are all states that are going to boost that up by a lot. And it's not like Wisconsin and Minnesota aren't fairly red themselves. Same thing for Pennsylvania. So, like, you know, I feel like 206 to 190 is already wrong because there are millions of more Democratic voters than there are Republican voters in the country. It's just most of them are concentrated in cities, and so they get put into the same district a lot of times, at least in more fair states they are. And I think that's a fair system. But then you have states that don't draw it fair and crack those cities to reduce Democratic votes, and then you end up with 190 to 206, with only 39 highly competitive. And if we look at the incumbents that are in those competitive seats, and we look at the values of what type of year it is election-wise, and the numbers in those highly competitive seats that are open, right, or have retirees, I feel like it could come down to a single flip. I feel like we could have the GOP take the majority in the House by 1 seat. So it's 218 to 217 in 2022. I really do. And I'll explain that as I go. So already you see in Georgia, we're losing a seat. I'm thinking Sanford Bishop will win re-election or whoever runs here. And we're just losing either Lucy McBath or Carolyn Bordeaux, right? So it's already 1 down because you only need 5 to flip it. So 6 to get that extra seat control, right? You got Georgia. Okay, so now I'm just going to go up. I'm going to do Florida, and then I'm going to go up the coast, right? No, actually Florida hasn't been proposed, so I'll get into that later. Let's just look at the ones that are complete. So we look at South Carolina, right? The old map on South Carolina has the voting rights district, which is gross. Not that it's the voting rights district, but just look at how gerrymandered it is to put as many Democratic voters into one district as possible. That's the name of the game of gerrymandering. Put the party you don't want to win all into the same district, so all of your voters are in all the other ones. But they had the first district in Charleston getting competitive over the years. I don't have a slider, but over the years this went from safe red to now it's competitive, and so you look 5 to 10 years in the future and it might be possible for a Democrat to win here. Not anymore. They split Charleston even heavier. They basically put most of Charleston into the blue district and took some more red areas into this and made it more competitive again. Only added 3 points, but that's still 3 points. That could be 4 years worth of work in flipping voters, right? It's not easy to just change people's minds, right? So you see, this is kind of a gerrymander. It was already a gerrymander, so they didn't have to do much, but you see what they did. Now, my map for South Carolina. It's going to be much more fair for Democratic voters. It's not great for Democrats because it's South Carolina. But still, it's more fair. You see, District 1 is a red district, but only by a slim amount. It is 1.1% red. So it's competitive, which I think fits for Charleston, because Charleston isn't like a big liberal city. It's just a big city. And so I feel like it being competitive is very fitting. But then neither of these two Democratic districts, 2 and 4, which 2, I believe, Columbia, yeah. 2 is the district for Columbia, and it's the safest blue, but it's really not that safe at all. And I feel like that fits, but in most years you're going to have 2 Democratic representatives from South Carolina at least. And you might flip this one in a good year for Democrats. And I feel like that's much more representative. And I'll just flash the city lines. You see Columbia there, Charleston, Florence, Greenville, you know. And then I'll flash the county lines for you in case anyone's interested. You can pause it and, check all that out. Alright, moving on to Alabama. So Alabama, oh my god. Their old map looks like this. And that's basically what their new map looks like. The issue with this is already a gerrymander based on the Voting Rights Act of having just one blue district. But the thing is, Alabama has a black population of 27%. And so since it's more than 25%, they're supposed to have, based on the Voting Rights Act, a second majority-minority district. Now let me show you some proposed maps for Alabama. This is a map that Alabama should have. Maybe not exactly this one, but it should have Montgomery and Birmingham in different districts, and they should both be blue. Right? And this is what was going to happen, because this map was passed by the Alabama state legislature. And then the Alabama Supreme Court said, this does not follow the Voting Rights Act, which is true, and struck it down. But the Supreme Court of the United States has to uphold that, and because there is 6-3 conservative majority, they said, nah, it's alright, and they reapproved it. And so now, instead of having 2 Democratic representatives from Alabama, there's only 1. And all they need is 2. Like, I'll show you my fair map, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, it's just 2. Oh my gosh, it's somewhere. There it is. Yeah, it's just 2. Now I also have some I have a competitive district in here that's red leaning, but is kind of competitive. But so is number 2. It's kind of competitive, right? The Montgomery district. But Birmingham, in my method, has its own district. And then Huntsville has its own district, but Huntsville is red. Because Huntsville is a college town, and so a lot of people are from out of state, or they don't vote for whatever reason because they're in college, right? Excuse me. The only thing I don't like about this map I did is I had to end up splitting whatever. This city down here, I had to end up splitting it a little bit. I'll show you that. And I don't like that I had to do this. But I wasn't going to spend all day making these perfect. I just wanted to make a sort of approximation of what might be fair, right? Here's the counties. I tried to keep counties together for the most part in all these maps. But yeah, Alabama should have 2 blue districts. But because of Trump appointing 3 Supreme Court justices, they don't. And I'm thinking in these maps in Ohio and North Carolina it will be the same way. Let's keep going. Mississippi, not much change. You got a blue district, you got 3 red districts, same thing, right? And actually, with Mississippi, the Voting Rights Act actually does give them a safe blue district, whereas I did not. Based on my method of urban, suburban, rural, they have a blue district, but it's not super safe. It's only by a couple percentage points. So like in a year like 2022, it could flip. 4 is also kind of competitive, though. So I feel like this is fair, it just doesn't follow the Voting Rights Act, which, like I said, I support because gerrymandering isn't illegal and because we have a history of racial injustice in this country. My maps are designed not including that history of racial injustice as part of the hypothetical, right? And Mississippi looks like this because it's a very red state. So that's Mississippi. Very simple. Not that bad of a map. But it's only got 4 districts, so it's kind of hard to mess it up. But a state that did mess it up and gerrymandered is Arkansas. See, the Little Rock district in Arkansas is very much like the 1st district of South Carolina. They've been the Democratic Party has been making leeway in there, clawing voters, convincing people, making it more competitive. And so within 8 years or so, this could go blue. And it's plus 14 right now. They made it plus 17. So that 8 years, nah. It's going to be more like 12 years. And the issue with that is these maps get redrawn every 10 years. So you see why this is a gerrymander. If you look at my Arkansas map, it doesn't have a blue district. It's basically like the old map. Let's see. Where'd it go? 1 second. Here it is. So you see Arkansas here, it just has this competitive district for Little Rock, which is, mine is more competitive than the other one used to be, by a lot. It's actually competitive, and the rest of it's basically the same. You have the Fayetteville district, because that's the 2 urban districts here. Let me show you the city lines. You got Little Rock in this competitive district, and then you have Fayetteville up here. Which I could be wrong, but I think based on the Voting Rights Act, the Fayetteville district counts as their majority-minority district. Like, even though it's dark red, not all black people vote for the Democratic Party. That should be pretty obvious. But either one of 2 things, I didn't look it up. Either Arkansas has such a low percentage of black people, which I doubt, that they don't qualify for the Voting Rights Act, or Fayetteville is their 3rd district is their majority-minority district. It's just, they're Republican voters. It's Arkansas. All 4 of these districts are red. It's just this one should be more competitive than the others. And in the new map, it's not. Alright, so Tennessee, this is an awful, terrible gerrymander. Because in Tennessee, and I'll show you my map, it's the same as the old map. Because that's the thing, after 10 years, even if the districts are gerrymandered, you can figure out how to make things work and start convincing voters, but by the time it counts, they're going to change it again. In Tennessee, you really have two pockets of Democratic voters. You have Nashville and you have Memphis. In the old map, that's what you have. Nashville's blue, Memphis is blue, and you have all red. New map, they cracked Nashville 3 ways. Nashville's all in the 5th district in the old map. New map, Nashville's in the 6th, 7th, and 5th district. Look at this. Jim Cooper, the incumbent, is now in a plus 15 red district. And all you've got is Memphis blue. This is awful. Does this violate the Voting Rights Act? No, because you still have Memphis. Does it represent the voters in the state? No. This would be much more like the voters in the state. You see, you've got Nashville up here, you've got Memphis down here, and everywhere else is red. You know, you have the Nashville suburbs are red, you've got Knoxville is red, you've got all of this red. Here's the counties. It's awful. And see, that's one of the states where they took one. So Georgia, they took one. Tennessee, they took one. Right? You're going to see this add up as I keep going through these maps. So let's go to Kentucky, because Kentucky's not that bad. The old Kentucky map looks like this. Plus 11 in their 6th, and it's got 1 blue district. Now it's plus 13 in their 6th, which sucks, but it's not that bad. It's still, 5 red districts and 1 blue district. And that makes sense for Kentucky. Kentucky was actually praised as like, oh, you didn't actually gerrymander this that bad. Because actually Kentucky doesn't have to follow the Voting Rights Act. And so they could have cracked Louisville. But they didn't. So the GOP in Kentucky is still not good, but, they didn't do something. They didn't do what Tennessee did, If you look at my version, blue and competitive. District 2, the Lexington district, very competitive. It's 2.2% red, so it could flip in a blue wave here, but normally would be red, and that's, I feel like, representative. And you see the difference. This one kind of stretches out over here and gets up to plus 13, right? And the old one, same thing. It stretches out over here into this rural area. I kept it all in the suburbs. Like if I show you the counties here, this is the county Lexington's in. I just put the counties that are around it, including Frankfort, and Richmond. I wanted to keep as many urban areas in there as possible, because I feel like that's fair. Urban voters and rural voters and suburban voters all have different needs, and that's why I feel like they should have different representatives. That's why I used this system I used. Here's cities breakdown, county breakdown. Alright. So Kentucky, not that bad. Not the best, not that bad. Okay, let's get into Virginia. Virginia just kept their incumbents. As you see, it's the same breakdown, but that's still not good, because this old map was a GOP gerrymander. So basically they just changed, the new Democratic legislator just changed which district was competitive. The Virginia Beach district was competitive. The new map, they made it more red and just made the 7th district competitive. But it's the same breakdown, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 1 competitive seat. And you may think, oh, that's fair because it's 5-5 and a competitive. But it's not. And let me show you my Virginia map so that you can see why. Virginia voted for Biden by over 10 points statewide. Virginia is not a split state. Georgia is a split state and could have something like this. Virginia is a blue state. So with my map, you see you have a competitive district in the 5th, competitive district in the 9th. This one's blue, this one's red just by a couple points, right? And I kept Alexandria in 1 district. That's the thing. It's up here. Alexandria is... Oh, not Alexandria. There's a city down here that is split in the map, right? all these three up here by Washington are their own district in blue, and I feel like that represents the voters. And you've got, of course, Virginia Beach is blue, but not by very much. You've got Norfolk, and you've got, what city is this? Richmond, of course. And then you have these three safe red districts. So normally you would have four. It'd be 4 to, I can't think, 7, 4 to 7. Whereas this, it's 5 to 6, right? This is more representative. I'll show you the cities real quick. Let me zoom into these districts up here. Kind of hard to see the lines, but... And then the county breakdown. Right, so the new Virginia map just keeps the old map basically, but it's still not representative. Even though Democrats drew it, it's still not representative. And now we're going to talk about the opposite, going off of that, of where Maryland is actually a gerrymandered map done by the Democratic Party. Most gerrymanders are done by the Republican Party. Maryland is one of the examples where the Democrats gerrymandered. Here's the old map, and it's already gerrymandered. The new map is a little better, because it's got some competitive districts in there. But if I show you my map, if I show you the breakdown of what Maryland is supposed to look like if it was drawn fair, there's 3 Republican districts. All up here in the north of Maryland is red. 4 is extremely competitive. Actually, 4 is slightly red. It is 1 percentage point to the Republican Party, but 8 and 6 should always have a Republican representing them. But as you see, what they did in the old map and in the new map is take this the Panhandle, which is rural in Maryland, and they put in part of the city down here to make it blue. I just kept all the rural voters together. And if they want a Republican, they can have it. A Republican will not help them, but if that's what they want, that's how a democracy should work. I've got all of the dense urban area here around Washington, D.C. all have their own districts. And, you see both parties do it. It's just Republicans are usually worse at it because they are in control of more state legislators. Here's city breakdown and county breakdown. Okay. Oh, I didn't even talk about the single representatives. So, and just in case you're unfamiliar, some states have such a low population they only have 1 representative. And I believe there's 5 of them. You got Delaware, so there is no redistricting process. Delaware is just, it's not showing up now. I would show you the percentage of, here it is, plus 14. Delaware is plus 14 statewide, and that's how it looks on the congressional map, because it's only got 1 district. Vermont only has 1 district, and it's plus 28 for the Democratic Party. North Dakota only has 1 district. It's plus 37 for the Republican Party. South Dakota, 1 district. Plus 32 for the Republican Party. Wyoming, the least populated state, plus 50 for the Republican Party. And the last one is Alaska, which is plus 15 for the Republican Party. Alright, so we're going to go straight up into New Jersey, which I kind of like the New Jersey map. Here's the old one. It's got some competitive districts. This one gets rid of it only leaves 1, so I don't like it for that. It's part of the problem of making these districts not competitive. But I feel like it is kind of representative, I think. Let me look at my map real quick. Here we go. I think this is the right map. Maybe it won't be. Maybe this is... Hold up, let me look at the partisan breakdown. Is this the fair map? I think this is the fair map I did. Let me look at my maps again. Some of these states I did more than one map of. Just for fun, because I'm a map freak. I think that's the right one, though. Yeah, that was the right one. So as we see, we got a lot of urban area up here by New York, and it's all blue. And then you have a deep red district here in 11. You have a very competitive blue district in 12, and 2 semi-competitive red districts in 9 and 6. This one, it's fairly similar. You have competitive red, safe red, slightly competitive red. I've got same thing, except there's no super competitive blue district here, and 12 is super competitive on my map, and it's got 3 kind of competitive blue districts. New Jersey's not that bad. Here's the urban breakdown. The whole state's pretty urban, honestly. And counties. Okay. Connecticut just passed their map a couple days ago. Probably 2 days ago. And it looks just like the old map. It's the same. 2 very competitive districts that slightly lean blue. Semi-competitive district and 2 safe districts. All Democrats. And honestly, you would think, oh, okay, this might be a gerrymander. It's all Democrats. Actually, the state of Connecticut should probably be bluer than that. Here's my Connecticut map. And it's following the same system, urban, suburban, rural. It's only 1 competitive district. And it's not super competitive either. Connecticut's just an extremely blue state, and I feel like the state legislator tries to make it look more fair, which makes it actually less fair, right? It looks fair because there's competitive districts, so it's like, okay, we're not shutting out the Republican Party, but you should, because there's just not that many red voters in Connecticut. Like 3, the most competitive is still a couple points blue, and I believe 3 is the rural district in this map based on city breakdown. Let's look at that. Cities, it's hard to tell, the way they do cities in Connecticut's weird, but here's the counties. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. Connecticut's going to have 5 Democratic legislators no matter what, and that's how it should be, because it's Connecticut. We're going to go to Massachusetts now. We're going to skip New York until we get all New England, because New York, is larger and it's more interesting. Massachusetts, all blue. New map doesn't change very much. It's just all safe blue, all 9 districts. Where's my Massachusetts map? Oh my gosh. Here it is. My Massachusetts map is also all blue, but not all safe. The thing is, the Democratic state legislature in Massachusetts has gerrymandered in a way. It's all safe districts. My map is still all Democratic districts, but 5 of them aren't completely safe. 2 of them are very competitive, but all leaning slightly to the Democratic Party, because that's just how Massachusetts is. It's extremely Democratic, and with a large D, extremely large D Democratic. Show you real quick. Cities, counties. Okay. Go to Maine. Maine has 2 districts, and they basically kept it very much the same. Plus 18D, plus 11R with a Democratic incumbent. Now it's plus 16D, plus 10R with a Democratic incumbent, right? Not much to say about that. I think Maine is fine, honestly. The Maine map is fine. Mine, I just made it more compact with the urban area. If I can find it. Got a lot of fucking maps on here. Yeah, my map of Maine, it's the same breakdown, basically. The only difference is, instead of stretching it up here, I put all that urban area into one. Look at the cities, look at the counties, and I'll show you the breakdown. This one is roughly 11 Democratic, and 2 is, roughly the same Republican. It's honestly, I feel like, better than this because it splits it very evenly. But really, this is not a bad map. Okay, New York. New York just passed this recently. They lost a district with the new census. And people were like, oh, New York can gerrymander. New York can do a 23-3. Well, they ended up doing it, I believe it's 22-4. It is. 22-4, right? But the thing is, 23-3 is not a gerrymander. With my system of making these maps fair, that is exactly how I did New York. And not going into it trying to do 23-3, that's just how it ended up, because I feel like that's fair, based on how these voters are grouped. So let me review this map. So, see the old map, you have red, 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 red. You have like 7 red districts, right? And you have a red incumbent in this blue district, right? Actually, there's another red district here with a D incumbent, and an even here. New map gets rid of the Coney Island district, and gets rid of this Long Island district back here. That's just one safe red district here instead of 3 competitive red. These are shored up for the Democratic Party, the 2 competitive districts. It gets rid of this competitive district, makes it lumped in here, makes it red. So there's just 4 red districts. If you look at my map, there's only 3 red districts, and they're not even all safe. And this is not a gerrymander. This is intentionally supposed to be fair. Like, all I did was just take the largest cities, give them their own districts. Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, Schenectady, Albany. They all got their own district. Utica. Utica is the only urban district that went red. Right? And then the suburban districts are all around New York, which the New York district is just South Manhattan. And then Manhattan has another district, and then all the other boroughs all have districts. Coney Island is blue. You see the old map? It's red, and I feel like it's red intentionally. Because you might think this new Coney Island, they added some of like Manhattan or whatever to make it a blue district. No, this is just Coney Island right here, with a little bit of the closest part of Brooklyn. It's not a gerrymander. It's the closest part of mainland New York to Coney Island, and it's blue. That's how it should be. Also, another urban district over here is, what's it called? I can never find it on this map. It's, let me turn on the city lines real quick. Does it not even show up? Hold up. It starts with a B. I don't know. Bloomfield something. Whatever. There's not even a red district on Long Island in mine. Because you have a city here that isn't part of New York that gets its own district. And then the rest of Long Island is hyper competitive, but not red. It is like 0.4% for the Democratic Party. Extremely competitive. And that's how it should be. That's the thing is, this is not a gerrymander. Don't let anyone tell you this is it kind of is. But when it comes down to pure numbers, it's not. If anything, it's still not blue enough. for New York. And yeah, you may say I'm biased because I want the Democratic Party to win, but I did not go into this thinking what the results were before I made it. I drew these maps with a system that I thought would be fair to how voters vote. And it's 23-3 in New York. So there you go. Okay, let's see. West Virginia, easy. West Virginia, 2 red maps. 2 red districts. They lost a district. They all used to be red. They lost a district because of the census. Mine's the same way. If I can find it. Mine's the same way. It's 2 red districts. You can't really cut it any other way. Of course, I put Charleston all in one, and I tried to make it fair. Here's counties, cities. It's just a red state. A deep red state, Can't cut it any other way. Indiana. Here we go. Now, Indiana, people say is a gerrymander, and it is because you have this competitive red district. That's only +8. They made it +22. So it's no longer competitive. So now everything's shored up. Instead of it being 2 competitive districts, now it's only 1, and it's always going to go to the Democratic Party. Because it's Gary, Indiana. Now, my Indiana map is pretty similar, though. It's just with competitive. Indiana should only have 2 blue districts. But a lot of those red districts should be more competitive. See, Gary and you have Indianapolis that are blue, but you have this one. This district, the suburbs of Indianapolis. Very competitive. And you have 3 kind of competitive districts. Lafayette, South Bend, Evansville, Michigan. Michigan, I feel like, is interesting. See, what we used to have is urban blue, you have a competitive here, you have semi-competitive red, and then deep red, right? They made these just more competitive, which I really like. Michigan actually did the right thing and made these more competitive so it could go to either party, as it should be. Let the voters decide. And the breakdown, of course, they lost a district as well. It's now 4 blue, 6 red, and 3 competitive, right? Let's see, where's my Michigan at? There it is, okay. So my Michigan map has still a lot of competitive districts. You've got these urban districts down here. Here's city breakdown. And there is no safe red district. These are basically safe, but not completely. Grand Rapids is red, but not by much. Warren is red, but not by much. Lansing is blue, but not by much. I feel like, what is it? This is 4 Democratic districts down here? Yeah, 4 Democratic districts that are safe. You basically have 3 red districts that are safe, and then you have 1 competitive Democratic district, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 competitive Republican districts. So, yeah, this map isn't that bad. It's got the 4 safe, blue. It's not a bad map for Michigan. And you find the better maps in the real world are the ones that have a Democratic majority legislator, but not by a landslide. The ones that are competitive states, but it's the Democrats who are in control, that are the most fair. And I think that speaks to 2 things. 1, never trust a Republican, and 2, everyone is corrupted by power. So, having it split, but with Democrats having a slim majority, gives you the fairest maps. And now we're going to talk about a Democratic map that is not fair. Illinois everyone likes to talk about Illinois and how it's a gerrymander, which it is. Look at these districts. They've got noodles running through their state. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, I can't disagree with anyone. It is absolutely disgusting. Personally, I'm not opposed to it, because if gerrymandering is legal and one side's definitely going to do it, you're going to have to compete to keep things fair. But it should be illegal, right? So they basically just cracked Chicago, they cracked Springfield, cracked Rockford to create more Democratic districts than there should be for Illinois. Let me grab my Illinois map and show you something that would be kind of fair, because it's not like this old map is the fairest either. Did I accidentally clicked on Texas? Illinois. And this one takes a while to load because of how many districts there are. Just wait until we get to Texas and California. Oh my god. But yeah, you see, mine's much more chunky. This one, snaky. Very snaky in the old one, even more snaky in the new one. Mine is chunky. And you see, there are a lot of blue districts up here in Chicago, as it should be. As it should be. Aurora is competitive blue, right there on the cusp. Rockford is competitive red, right? And you only have one safe red, and that's down here, this 15th district. But Springfield, they made blue. They made +7 blue in Springfield. My Springfield is red. It's not safe red, but it is red. There's the cities. Oh, let me zoom in so you can actually see this breakdown of Chicago and all of these cities outside of Chicago. There you go. County map. Okay. Iowa. This is a gerrymander. But so is this. This is kind of cool, the old map, because it's 3 competitive districts. And this one is safe red. Alright, so we're going to cut to intermission real quick so I can run and add.
Sure it's off.
Alright, so I need to tell you about the greatest reunion ever. This is a concert held by the former students of the Griffin Academy of Music when Mr. Don was the vocal teacher. I am one of those former students. Mr. Don was one of the best teachers to ever come out of Spalding County, especially for music. He now lives in Virginia, but we're trying to get him. He said he's going to try and be here the 20th of this month, the 20th of February, at 7 p.m. We're having a concert at Eagles Way Church. Just like we used to, all the former students are coming. Not all, but a lot of former students are coming to perform and give a good tribute to Mr. Don. Here's the confirmed performers right now. You can go to the GoFundMe in the description and give a donation. We need a lot more money than what we've raised so far if we want to make this really good. And we're trying to make it as good as possible. So please consider coming out if you're in the area. And please consider supporting. Alright, give me just a couple more moments and we'll get back to the show. Alright, sorry for the extended break. It's just what happens when you're live. So, Iowa, like I was saying, I like the old map because of how many competitive districts there are. I love that shit. I think competitive districts are extremely important. New map, obviously, not as good. Either way, not super representative. If we look at the urban district, the urban areas, Des Moines and is it Sioux City? What is it? There's a city over here. Is it Cedar Rapids? I think it is Cedar Rapids. Cedar Rapids and Des Moines. They should be blue. Not very. Extremely competitive. But they should still be slightly blue. Whereas you see, none of these are blue. And this old map, none of these are blue. They're just competitive, right? Deep red, same place this deep red is. Makes sense. Semi-competitive red district here. I think it's a great breakdown. Gonna try and get through these. I know this has been running long, but I think all this is super important, so I want to cover it. Okay, Nebraska. Oh shoot. Nebraska is one that I think has been done a little dirty. Now, Nebraska is also one that doesn't matter that much when it comes to actually who's going to end up winning in the end. But when it comes to running elections, I feel like it matters. You know, the voters feel like they have a chance at least, right? So if you look at this map, the old map, even. Omaha, their second district, even. And then you have 2 red districts, right? The new one makes it +3 red. I think it's gerrymandered. Because Omaha should be near even. Now mine, I figured out a way to make it even, but I didn't. I decided it'd be better if it was only 0.2. Look at this breakdown. It's 0.2% Republican. Which I think is more fair than making it even, specifically. But there is a way to make it even. You just give this side of that county instead of this side. But it should be extremely competitive, you know? And then 2, you know, just like on this map, it's basically the same. It's just I included all of these periphery cities over here next to Iowa and Missouri, all packed in over here, and then the rest of it is more rural, right? So if I show you the city breakdown, you know, you've got some larger cities over here. Sioux City, Lincoln, Nebraska City, you know, Bentries, right? And here's the county breakdown. I feel like this is a perfect example because there's only 3 districts of my system. Urban. So you have Omaha, has its own district. Suburban. All these larger cities around Omaha, they have their own district. And then the rest of the state has its own district. That was my system to break it down, you know. And I think it works really well. Nebraska's actually the state that had me come up with that. When I was just doing maps for fun before, Nebraska made me think of it. And then I did all that I did. Okay. I said I'd start moving quicker. I need to actually do that. I just love talking about maps. I could talk about maps all day. That's why I was excited. If I had won my election for city commissioner, one of the first things I would have done is work on the redistricting cycle for the city of Griffin. But it did not win, unfortunately. So you see the old map? Kansas City's +4. New map, big gerrymander, is now +3 red. Is Charisse Davis going to win anyways? Maybe. But that's the thing, it's just a maybe. So you could lose a blue incumbent. Still technically competitive, but, you know. It's not considerate to the incumbent. It's not considerate to the people who live in Kansas City, which is broken in half in this map. And, well, no, it's not in the old map. It's broken in half in this map, and that's messed up. See, I have Kansas City all together, and it's blue. And then Wichita and the suburbs of Kansas City are semi-safe red, and then the rest is safe red. You know, I feel like that's completely fair for how Kansas is. Kansas should have 1 Democrat and 3 Republicans. Okay, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, same thing as Arkansas, is semi-safe red district in Oklahoma City, and they cracked it and made it safe red. So at the end result, it's still going to be 5 Republican representatives. But it still disenfranchises voters anyways, by making it safe rather than competitive. And I'll show you my Oklahoma is like the old one, except even more concentric, based on the way I did it, and a little ugly. Oklahoma City is very competitive. It is 5.5% Republican, and it's basically just the county that Oklahoma City's in, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Tulsa has its own district, but it's red. And then suburbs of Tulsa is red, suburbs of Oklahoma City are red, and then all of this, the bottom of Oklahoma, which is, this down here is mostly indigenous reservations, like Choctaw, but moving up into this panhandle, it's all in the same district, because this is the more rural areas. I feel like that's fair. And I'll show you the cities. Come on, cities. Here they are. And counties. There you go. Oh, let's get into big boy. Let's get into big boy now. Texas, second most populated state. Texas is the only state to change by 2 seats. Texas gained 2 seats because of all the people moving there in the past 10 years. And they gerrymandered the hell out of this. On the surface of this breakdown, it looks like it's good for the Democrats, but it's not, because all these competitive districts, basically Democratic districts, and how they actually got one, right? Now the Republican Party shored them up, and you see all these competitive red districts, shored them up. So now you're always going to have this many Dems and this many Republicans with only 3? What? This is the old map. Whoops. Only one competitive district, and it's completely even, and an open seat. So you're basically going to have this many Republicans, this many Democrats, and one that could go either way, depending on the year. So it would probably go to Republicans this year. It's awful. Now let me show you my map, which I'm pretty proud of, because Texas is not an easy place to draw a map in. Where's Texas? It is so hard to identify these states. Because they're not the right size. You know, the size comparison is a big thing. Oh, excuse me. Okay, Texas. Here's my breakdown. I'm going to focus on this down here first. Old map, 3 competitive, right? New map, slightly blue, safe blue, even. I've got them all blue, because that's how it should be in this area. Corpus Christi, a very competitive, extremely competitive, but slightly blue. But what I did, unlike either of these maps, is something I thought was pretty obvious. This isn't even one of my urban districts. This is a suburban district. But I felt like it was so obvious when I was drawing it. Nuevo Progreso, McAllen, Harlingen, I can't say that. Harlingen, whatever, and Edinburgh, all of them make this little square of urban area, right? Now, none of them are one of the largest cities in Texas. None of them are. But that's perfect for a suburban district. They're all right here, concentric, like all together. And so I just put them into one district, right there at the bottom. It makes so much sense to me. And you would think these people have so much in common, and they should have a representative that represents them. One, they're all smaller cities, but all cities, and they're right on the border of Mexico. And so the issues that different voters might have about the border of Mexico, no matter what they are, they're all discussing the same shit. The people way up here, like you see in this district, the people way up here don't give as much of a shit about the border as people right here on it do. I think this makes plenty of sense. Okay, hopping into the urban areas, was Austin? San Antonio. San Antonio looks like this on my map. Let's zoom in. This is what it looks like in real life. Austin looks like this on my map. Here's what it looks like in real life. This is disgusting. San Antonio and Austin share a district. That's how bad gerrymandering is in Texas. Okay. Houston. Look at that. Beautiful. Not beautiful. Because none of them are competitive. I got 2 competitive districts here. And a semi-competitive district. Texas, where are all your competitive districts? Man, come on. I can't scroll like that. Dallas. Ugly. 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 My Dallas. Beautiful. Beautiful. Fair. Look at these competitive districts. Fair. Beautiful and fair. This Dallas, disgusting. Not fair. Okay? El Paso's the same. El Paso gets 1 district. My map's the same way. Paso gets a safe blue district. But the difference is, instead of this being competitive, by stealing votes down here from San Antonio to make it competitive, it's a rural district. This is a rural area. And so guess what? It's safe red because it's all rural. Ain't no urban in there. Piedras Negras is like the biggest city in there. Right? Also, with the urban breakdown, Lubbock has its own district. When I put Amarillo in there too, it's still safe red, but this is why this looks like this. That's why I chose this shape. It's to sort of get those urban areas all in the same place. City lines. Yeah, makes sense. County lines. Okay. That's Texas. This is an awful map. It can be done much better, as I proved with my map. Oh, another awful map. New Mexico. Good God. What if... There's a term in redistricting called dummy-mander, and that's where you try and gerrymander for your party, but you end up accidentally gerrymandering for the other party. That's what New Mexico did. This is the old map. Albuquerque, safe blue, as it should be. Competitive blue for Santa Fe. La Cruces, competitive red. That's a good map. That's a good looking map, right? New map. Not a safe district in sight. Albuquerque, cracked. So that these are both leaning blue, but just by a couple of points. And this one's not even safe. In a red wave year, all 3 of these could go to the Republican Party. The Democrats thought, oh, we're going to screw over Yvette Harrell by making it competitive. You screwed yourself. You could lose all 3 of these seats. That's a dummy-mander. Let me show you my New Mexico map, which is supposed to be fair. Yet they're all still blue-leaning districts because it's New Mexico. Look, Albuquerque is all in 1 district. This is Albuquerque right here. It's not, even compared to the old one, where it's got all this, no. Albuquerque's all in 1 district. Because that's how it should be. They're all... People in a big city all have similar issues because they live in that city. And living in that city is different than living anywhere else. So you're all in the same district. I don't have to crack Albuquerque to make these blue. They're blue because the voters want them to be blue. Like, I put Santa Fe here so it'd be this more suburban district by that. And then I put this... I forgot the exact method, but I didn't make these all blue on purpose. This is how they ended up based on the method I was using to actually draw these maps. And you see, well, this might be the suburban district, actually. You see the city breakdown. This county breakdown, it's stupid. It's straight up dummy, like the term. Alright, I'm going to skip to Hawaii, just because I want to get out of the way. Old map, you have plus 32, plus 32. New map, you have plus 32, plus 32. It's fine. They did this on purpose so that they're the same competitiveness. And that's fine because the outcome's not going to change. My map, it's not the same competitiveness. But they're still both safe blue. Because that's just Hawaii. That's just what you're. There is no way to draw Hawaii with a red district. It is impossible. So you see, I just did. I'll zoom into Oahu here and show you. Honolulu and these cities right here are all in the same district, right? Everything else is in the greater Hawaii, right? You know, I mean, it's not much to say. Let's go to Colorado, which used to not have a super competitive district. It just had this blue one, this red one, right? Now it's much better, I think. It's got this, since they gained a seat, it's got this open, hyper-competitive district with a slight red lean. I love that the new district is very competitive. I think that's fitting. And it's still got 2 competitive districts, one for each party. I think this is a good map. Let's look at mine and see how it stacks up. I do believe it's pretty similar. Like the good maps, when you see good breakdown of maps, you're going to see that my maps are going to be similar to those. Not because I'm copying them, because voters don't change. When you have that voter data, you know how these people vote, and that's how gerrymandering works. Is when you know how they vote, you can screw them over. But if you make it fair, it's going to look very similar. See, in this map, Denver is all one district. My map, Denver is all one district. Yes, Denver is shaped like this. And then you have the suburbs, blue. This one's slightly red. Fort Collins, blue. Colorado Springs, red, but that's just how Colorado Springs is. Safe red, competitive red. You know, so we've got the hyper-competitive district right here next to Fort Collins on my map and that map. The east side is safe red, right? Colorado Springs is pretty red. You've got competitive blue districts. This one's actually safe blue on their map. Mine, they're both kind of competitive. And then you have a safe blue district in Fort Collins. And then you have a semi-competitive red district over here on the west side. I didn't do this on purpose. This is just, when you draw a fair map for Colorado, this is basically what it looks like, okay? Camera's good. Arizona. Now this is one of the states where they've gerrymandered it to where we're going to lose a seat. Like, where Democrats are going to lose a seat, is what I meant. You see Tucson is competitive, and that's the only competitive district. You know, you've got some blue districts in here. Tucson's now red. And there's a competitive district here. Right, and so you see the breakdown here. You basically lost a Democratic district. It sucks, but that's what happens when you have crazy state legislators. I mean, the leader of the Arizona GOP is like a big lie Trump person, you know, like most Republicans are. Arizona, here we go. Here's my Arizona map. This is ugly, by the way. This big blue blob down here at the bottom of Arizona is ugly, and you see my map does not have that. My map does not have this big blue blob at the bottom of the state, no. My map is actually mostly red when it comes to land, because it puts these urban areas all in the same district. Tucson has its own district. Phoenix has its own district. Mesa has its own district. Tampa has its own district. Here's some suburban area, like, you see, 4 to 5, right? That's fair. This is 6 to 3. Yeah. So 1, this is the right numbers. This is not fair. This is basically what Georgia did, but in Arizona. But then also it doesn't have things like this, where it's like, these voters down here, these voters, what I'm highlighting right now on my map, are Republican voters. They don't want Raul Grijalva. Raul Grijalva. They don't want him. So why are you making them have him? Right? Because you want to gerrymander this seat and put half of Tucson here? Part of Phoenix suburbs there? That's wrong to these Republican voters. My map, they have Republican representatives. But does that mean that I got rid of Democratic support? No. Because guess what? Instead of splitting Tucson, all the Tucson voters have their own representative. Right? Okay, we're almost done with all the states, and then I'll briefly talk about Spalding County, and then we'll get out of here. I know this is running long. Montana, easy. You can't really split it any other way. Montana's a red state, but part of it is not as red as the other. I think this is very fair of a map. I'll show you mine. It is nearly the same thing. See, that one, it had basically the west side being the competitive district. In my map, it's the northwest. And I did that specifically because, it's urban to rural, because there's only 2 districts. Urban is Billings. And so I tried to do things that made sense to put Billings all in one district. But also I liked the idea of Missoula being in its own as well. So I tried to kind of split it like this. I tried to get Great Falls in there with Billings, and it still ended up basically like this. I can show you the cities. Did I forget? I think I forgot to show you the cities and counties on Arizona. It's not that important. I'll do screenshots if someone asks for it in the comments, but I don't think it's that important. Idaho, easy. Red. They split Boise. Hate that, but it doesn't matter, because I'm going to show you my map, and it's going to be red and red too, because it's Idaho. But at least I didn't split Boise, right? Where's my Idaho map? What in the world? There it is. Boise is all together. Still safe red, though. Boise and Twin Falls, actually, in the same district, still safe red, because it's Idaho. Doesn't matter. Okay, Utah. Utah is a terrible gerrymander. Look at this. 1, the old map. Competitive. But this isn't an Arkansas situation. While, yes, they did do the thing they did in Arkansas where they had a competitive district and they made it safe red, this map is the old map's gerrymandered too. Salt Lake City is a liberal as hell city and has a lot of people living there. So, let me show you my Utah. I love this map. I love this map. It's not even safe blue, but it doesn't have to be. Salt Lake City has its own little district here. It's beautiful. And the suburbs are safe red too, but they're still the suburbs, right? And you have all this rural here. It's all in the same, right? I love this map. I think it's beautiful, and this also shows exactly what I was going for. See how large this rural district is? Because no one lives there. That's why it's so much land. And all those people have their own issue because they don't live near other people. Because there's so few people there and they live in rural areas, they have issues pertaining to that. And so their representative should represent all of those people. And this urban district is extremely small. It is very tiny land mass. But guess what? It's because a lot of people live in this small little area. And their issues are all very similar compared to the issues of people who live in rural areas. And so their representative should represent them. I think it's almost like obvious, right? That this is how it should be, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like the divide between urban and rural is a good basis for these maps. Now here's one that I don't like. It's also, I feel like, a dummy mander. Here's the old Nevada map. You have Las Vegas as its own district. You have the South. You have South Las Vegas. You have North Las Vegas, competitive, and then you have a safe red district in the north. Right, here's the new map. Competitive red district. Competitive blue district. 2 hyper-competitive districts. This is a dummy mander. Because there's no safe districts. Competitive districts are extremely important, but you also need safe districts too. Come on, people. So let's go to my Nevada map. Show you what Nevada could be. Here we go. Look. Las Vegas. All this right here. Beautiful. Henderson, all this right here. And then you have the rest of it. All this around it, it's blue. Just like you see on their map. All that area is blue, but it's, you then have these two, a competitive and a safe, right? And then this is still competitive. This is what they tried to do. You look at this, they tried to make that from safe to competitive red, but they screwed themselves down here. All these Democratic districts are competitive, meaning they could be lost in a wave year. Not this. You have 2 safe districts. And you still have 1 hyper-competitive district. It's like, our politicians suck. Our elected officials suck. Basically, we need to elect better people, because look at this. This is trash. Washington. Let's take a look at Washington. And we're almost done. Is Washington? Yes. Okay. Washington, old map, is basically the same as the new map. Not much has changed except the Democrats shored up some districts, right? Even competitiveness. This one, it used to be even, it's still even. You have 3 red districts, My map is not that different. My map has, if it'll load, has, Seattle. It's got, 3 red districts. It's got no hyper-competitive district, but I feel like Washington doesn't really divide that way. I guess 4 is kind of hyper-competitive. Not really, though. Just kind of competitive. Oh. I like my map. But I also like the real map. I feel like Washington, in general, is one of the better states on a lot of issues. Like, Washington's got a pretty good state legislator and a pretty good governor, Okay, let's look at Oregon. Oregon's one of the states that is cited as a Democratic gerrymander. Which it is. But it's probably not that far off from what it should be, though. So let's just pull that up. Here's the old map. Competitive, competitive, safe, safe, safe. Right? 1 red district, 2 competitive, 3 safe. 2 safe for the Dems. This one's still 2 safe Democratic districts and 1 safe red district. But now they added a seat, which is the competitive seat. Actually, they added this one. 2 more Democratic districts that are kind of safe. And then a competitive district. So it is kind of a gerrymander. Excuse me. Talking a lot. Here's my map. Salem. Very competitive. Then the Eugene. Kind of competitive. And you have 3 safe blue, 1 safe red. So basically, the same thing as here. Very similar. So while this is kind of a gerrymander, it's also kind of not really. So, when people say Democratic gerrymander, take that with a grain of salt, because it's nothing like Texas, Georgia, or Arizona. It is nothing like a Republican gerrymander. California, here's the big one. Oh boy, okay. Some people said the new California map is a Democratic victory. I don't know. I know that was California down there. I have multiple California maps, and I just want to make sure it's the right one. But yeah, I don't know if it really is, because I've looked at how to gerrymander this. It could have been done a lot better, honestly. California lost a district, and yet the district they chose to take out was a Democratic district. Now, it doesn't make the districts in California. There are multiple districts that are statistically Democratic, but have Republican representatives. Now, did the Democratic Party draw this map in a way to where those, I say the Democratic Party didn't draw it. They have an independent commission, but the Democratic Party pays the independent commission, so they have semi-control. In those districts, with a Democratic lean but a Republican incumbent, they did make them more Democratic leaning, so it's harder for them to win re-election. But the seat that they removed was a Democratic seat, so it's like, there's 7 Republican seats in each of these maps, I'm pretty sure. It's just in the old map, you had 2 Democratic seats that were controlled by a Republican. This one they're probably going to lose, and it's probably just going to be 7. Either way, let's look at my fair district. This is whatever. I'm sure my audience doesn't super care about the California map, and honestly, it doesn't matter that much. But California, our most populated state, and takes forever to load because of that. Here's what I did. Still loading in. Here we go. Well, let me zoom in on the real map. Here's the real map, Los Angeles. The Los Angeles area. Here it is. That's what it looks like. Here's my Los Angeles. Not that different, just less snaky. Long Beach has its own district. Pasadena has its own district. Here's actual Los Angeles district right here, packed all in the middle. Thousand Island, Oxnard, all that. Some competitive districts. Love my competitive districts, that. But there's some in here anyways, I mean, yeah. Not that different, here's the Bay Area. If you go up to my Bay Area, look, this is something they don't do. Actually, well, they kind of do. Actually, Fresno does kind of have its own district, but, Modesto has its own district. Here is San Francisco, I like my map. I don't know what to say. I believe Stockton has its own district in my map. I think it's pretty good. How many Republican seats does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of these are snaky, but that's kind of how California is, though, with the urban and county lines. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Republican districts. 2 of them very competitive. I think that's fair. There's 7 districts on the real map. I gave them an extra district because there's a lot of Republican voters in California. They're just competitive districts, as it should be, because they are mingled in with Democratic voters. And if that's the case, then it should be a competitive district, Alright, now for the 10 that have not passed their maps yet. Let's start with Minnesota. Minnesota. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be like a 2-hour podcast, but it is what it is, Turn my fucking heater off. It'll go off in a second. Here we go. 4-4 with a lot of competitive seats, as it should be. If we look at, just pick the first map off the top. Same thing, because that's how Minnesota is. It's 4-4. It's just they don't have that many competitive, and the ones that they do is the Democratic ones. I just made it competitive all the way around, basically. 2 safe Democratic districts, 3 safe Democratic districts, 2 safe Republican districts, and then the rest kind of competitive. I think that's fair. I'm not even going to show the breakdown anymore. I really feel like this has gone on for way too long, but I wanted to talk about all of these. Now, Wisconsin's not going to change. This is Tony Evers' map, the governor, which is map of least change is what it's called, and that's basically what it is. The other map still has the same breakdown. It's just a little weirder looking, but it's still the same breakdown. 2 Democrats, 6 Republicans. If you look at my map, I think it's the same thing, just drawn a little better. Wisconsin, it might be 3 Democratic seats. Wisconsin is a swing state. It's just all the Democrats are in Milwaukee and Madison. Yeah, there's 3. This one's very, very competitive. This one over here. But yeah, Milwaukee and Madison have all the Democratic voters. And yeah, this looks weird, but I kind of like it because you have Milwaukee, and then you have the suburbs of Milwaukee, and then you have this sort of suburbs around it. It looks a little weird. but it also kind of makes sense, I feel like. Okay. Missouri. Missouri typically has 2 Democratic districts, and they just kept it like that. They actually shored up this one, you know. They had a competitive red district, and they shored that up too. So it's 2 Democrat, 6 Republicans always is what Missouri's probably going to pass. Mine is not like that. That is not representative of Missouri. Let me show you the real Missouri. Suburbs of St. Louis should be competitively Democratic. Straight up. They just should be. Kansas City, yes. Stretching out here to Columbia, that was bullshit. Yeah, it should be all one, and the rest around it should be deep red. But this one, around St. Louis, what used to be competitive red and now is safe red, should be competitive blue. That would make more sense for Missouri. Okay, Louisiana. Here's one that people have said, oh, the Supreme Court could strike it down. No, yeah, is it bullshit that they put Baton Rouge and New Orleans in the same district? Yes. But is it bullshit that they only have 1 Democratic district? No. Actually, no. Because I'm going to show you my Louisiana, and it still only has 1 Democratic district. It just doesn't put Baton Rouge and New Orleans in the same district. Because that's some bullshit. Mine puts Baton Rouge and New Orleans in their own district. But the thing is, Baton Rouge is competitive red. New Orleans is safe blue. This is a fair Louisiana. This has the same breakdown, except there's not a competitive seat. So statistically, it's kind of fair, kinda. But it's bullshit, because look at how snaky this is and how it cuts through New Orleans, Baton Rouge. Awful. The old map's the same way. People are like, oh, well, the Supreme Court's going to strike it down and they'll have to have 2 blue districts. No. Look at Alabama. No. It's not going to happen. And it probably shouldn't happen. It's just, I wish they would draw it to where people who live in New Orleans get a representative, and people who live in Baton Rouge get a representative, instead of putting them in the same district. You know, that makes no sense. Okay, Florida. Florida is one of those states where it's like, oh, it's not as bad as we thought it would be. It's like, okay. I mean, fair. Actually, they just passed this, they proposed this new one. I haven't seen this one yet. Either way, they gained a seat. They did not give it to the Democrats, I don't think. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the old map, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the new map. Yeah, so the new district is definitely a Republican district. But what keeps it kind of fair is they didn't take away a Democratic seat, and they also didn't take away competitive seats. Right? Still not fair completely to the voters, but more fair than it could have been. Where is my Florida? It's Georgia. Florida. So my Florida has I think it's more. I said there's 8 Democratic districts here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 13 or 14 districts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 Democratic districts. A lot of them being competitive. But yeah, instead of having this at the top, which the old map has too, this weird snake across the top of Florida, no, the top of Florida's red. It's just Jacksonville. Give Jacksonville, the largest city in Florida, its own district, and it will be very competitive. Very competitive, but slightly blue. Blue by like 0.3 points. I think that makes more sense than this. Orlando, and let's zoom in a little bit. Orlando has 3 districts, competitive red and 2 safe blue. My Orlando has 2 competitive blue and 1 safe blue. Tampa has 3 competitive districts. That's actually where one of the new districts is. Mine has semi-competitive blue, semi-competitive red, and a very competitive blue. If we go over to Miami, the one that everyone cares about, Miami has 2 competitive, slight red competitive, 2 slight red competitive, 2 slight blue competitive, 3 safe blue, right? Mine has slight red, 2 slight red competitive, well, I guess 1 slight red competitive, whatever. 2 blue competitive, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 safe blue. And this is all, this all has a purpose, right? 1, the keys, red, makes sense. Then you have this sort of more urban area, it's more blue. You got Miami proper, right? Miami proper right here is blue. Hialeah is blue. Fort Lauderdale is blue. Then you've got the suburbs, blue. And this one is specifically wraps around, Palm Beach wraps around the coast. That's intentional. Because if I take this off, you see it's like, it's water. This is like, it's water here. And so it's kind of like a water district. Palm Beach there. And that's based on precincts. Now, my districts are not perfect because I didn't take the time to split precincts. Real maps split precincts. And if I wanted to go in and make these perfect, as if I was going to pass them, I would do that. But this is just, I just wanted to make an example. I mean, this took a long time to do. But I was willing to do it. I had fun. I love maps. North Carolina. Here we go. Oh boy, so their state legislators struck down their map. This is what it was, and it's a big gerrymander. But like I said, it'll probably come back because of how conservative the United States Supreme Court is. Used to have 5 Democratic seats, 1 kind of competitive. This map has 3 Democratic seats and 1 very competitive. You see, they gained a district and yet took away 2 Democratic districts. You can easily see why that's a gerrymander. Then let me show you what I think North Carolina should be. They used to have 5. My map, it has, I forgot at this point, 5. Yeah, 2 of them are competitive though. That's the thing. It's like, yeah, you've got like Raleigh, and is this Greenville? Charlotte, of course. And you know, see all these different colors? That's how a map should be. It should be different levels of competitiveness with, you know, that's the old map. It shouldn't be all this safe. All this safe red should be different levels of competitiveness, depending on where you are, you know. Okay. North Carolina is one of them we're going to lose on. Ohio is another one that we're going to lose a seat on. Like I said, we could probably lose the House by a single seat based on these new maps. Did I click on the right one? No, this is a Democratic proposed Ohio map. It's not the right one. I want the one that got struck down. Ohio State Supreme Court struck down this map. Here's the old map. It's got 1, 2, 3, 3 Democratic districts and 1 even district. This map had 2 Democratic districts, and the 2 competitive districts are red-leaning. Huge gerrymander. Huge gerrymander. That's not at all what Ohio should look like. Ohio is kind of a swing state. It's more red than Georgia, but you know, it's not like it doesn't have millions of Democratic voters, right? What's that sound? That was weird. Okay. Yeah. See, I have 5 Democratic districts in this thing. And I think that makes sense. Toledo has this area. But is this... What is this? What's it called? Cleveland has a district. You know, Columbia. Columbus? Is it called Columbus? Columbus has a district. Cincinnati has a district. Right? This is a fair map of Ohio. Because it's almost split, but it's not. There's 16 seats. 15 seats. There's 15 seats. So a third of them can be Democrats, okay? It's just a third. You may be like, 5? Well, that's more than even the old map. Yeah, the old map was gerrymandered too. Ohio is considered a swing state. It can at least have a third of its representatives be Democratic, okay? And it's this one's competitive. Like, come on. We can do better. Okay, Pennsylvania. Here's a new, I think, maybe this isn't a new one. Oh well. Pennsylvania used to have 4 blue districts here, competitive blue, 2 very competitive, and a blue, right? New map. Potential new map. Hasn't passed, of course. Still 4 blue, but then this one was made competitive. So it's 3 competitive. This one is competitive red instead of fully competitive. And you have blue. Which creates... It used to have 6 blue districts, now it has 5, but it did lose one. So the one it lost was a Democratic district. My Pennsylvania... One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 blue districts. Not safe. Some of them are competitive, which there's competitive ones here. Actually no, there's not. These are both red leaning, and this one's even. But actually, there's not. But yeah, this is, I feel like, much fairer. Like you see, this is +10, shouldn't be. It used to be +2, and I feel like that's fair. You look at mine, it's very slightly red for the suburbs of Pittsburgh. I think the suburbs of Pittsburgh are just slightly red, and that's how it should be. Right? Erie, large city, so it's going to take away some of that safe redness up there. Which, I mean, it kind of does. You know, you get these 4 safe districts, and then you've got the suburbs of Scranton, one. Very competitive, but slightly blue, right? And then you have the suburbs of Philadelphia. You know, you have the 4 definite blue districts. Then you have some competitive ones on both sides. Yes, Pennsylvania state legislature is held by the Republican Party. Okay, 2 more, and they're not that important. Rhode Island. No matter how you cut Rhode Island, it will always be blue. Both districts, blue. This one's 32-17. It used to be 33-16. Really not much changed. And no matter how you cut it, they will be blue. If I show you my Rhode Island, all it does is make the urban areas more urban and the rural areas more rural. It's still 2 blue districts. Because it's Rhode Island. See, I just put, instead of stretching down here into Newport, I just put all of Pawtucket and Providence in one district, right? And some of Woonsocket. And the rest is, it's whatever. The last state, it's not last for a reason, other than it's just the order I went in. Because it's not that important. New Hampshire. It only has 2 districts. Let me show you the 2 proposed maps, and my map. Let me start by showing you my map. So you can get the fairness first, right? Here it is. Here's what I consider fair. By putting the urban districts into one and the rural districts in the rural parts into the other, you end up having a competitive, slightly blue district and a safe blue district, right? The real maps. Here's the first one, the one proposed by Democrats. Here's the old map. The old map, +1 Republican Party, +2 Democratic Party. Here's the new map proposed by Democrats. +1 Republican Party, +2 Democratic Party. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't change a thing. It's the same statistical breakdown. It's basically the same areas. Two extremely competitive districts in New Hampshire. Here's the Republican one. Now, this is a state that is a swing state by a lot. It votes for Democrats on the president level almost every time, but the legislature's pretty split. See the old map. +1, +2. This one, +9 Republican Party. Why? +10. This is a gerrymander. This is not how people in New Hampshire want it to be. They don't want a blue district and a red district. It's a swing state. They want two competitive districts, one going in the other direction. There are more Democrats in New Hampshire than Republicans. So the Democratic one has an extra point, but it's literally only one extra point. The Republican one has 1 point, the Democrat has 2. That's why the Republicans propose this one. They want to have a stake in the game when they don't. They shouldn't have one. You look at my map, they don't. They have hyper competitive, so they could win it, but they probably wouldn't. And then they have a safe blue. But that's because I split it. I didn't split it on partisan lines. See, the old New Hampshire map and the one the Democrats want is split on partisan lines of we're a swing state. Let's keep it fair. Let's keep it completely fair, right? Mine is split on living conditions, and so that's why you don't see that, right? So that's the overview of all that. Yes, it's not looking good for democracy, but it's good to know. So now let's get into a local area for my Spalding County listeners. Could not find the Griffin map. And there are new maps for Griffin too, but it basically, the overview for the city of Griffin new districts is every single district except for one has at least 40% black population in it. And because most of our black voters are Democratic voters, it does make every single district competitive, except for like 2 of them. 2 or 3 of them. I think it's 3. I think there's 2 safe Democratic districts on the north side, and then there's 1 semi-safe Republican district on the south side. And then the other 3 districts are competitive, which is cool. Wish I had that map, but I don't. Here's Spalding County. Not much change. In this map, you can see where the old districts are. Actually, they put the lines in there, and that's kind of cool. District 4, where I live, not much changed. Just some little areas changed because of population. Really, it's still the same. It's just the west side of Spalding County, right? Also, I don't have the numbers of competitiveness for this, by the way, but we can guess number 4 is probably going to be a Republican seat. Number 5 will definitely be a Republican seat, from how I see it, right? Not much changed. Really not much change. District 1, probably a blue seat. Kind of changed areas a little bit. Kind of got some of the old 5. 5 got some of the old 1. I think that makes sense. It's more urban over here and it's more rural over here. I think that's kind of how they've split this. Is this kind of like North Griffin? This is Experiment in North Griffin, right? And then this is Sun City and like Sunnyside, right? The Orchard Hill district down here in South Griffin is going to be red. Not much change. Has lost a little around here, South Griffin, and District 1, blue district, or District 3, my bad. District 3, blue district. It's still just mostly Griffin going down. Not much changed at all, but just thought I'd show you in case you were curious. Alright, that'll do it. That'll do it for me. Thanks for watching. Sorry this was different than usual, but just the circumstances. Next week, definitely going to have a guest on. Definitely going to have some important topics to talk about. Because if you watch the last episode, which I recommend you do, because it's about voting rights, we're going to have a lot more on that. I'm working on a lot of things where we're going to talk more about voting rights, because that's extremely important. That was not a one-time issue. This is a work in progress. This is just kind of a break episode. Let's take a break. Let's look at some maps. Do it live. Thanks for watching. Support me on Patreon. Link will be in the description. It really helps. I've been Xenerock, and